For the better part of a decade, Michael Porter Jr. spent his time in the NBA playing a specialized role on a Nuggets team that was looking to collect hardware. During his time in Denver, he scored over 5,000 points, secured about $200 million in career earnings, and of course contributed to a championship in 2023. It's really fascinating though because he did it in a way that you don't really see around the league. High-level role players are typically asked to do the little things like space the floor, move the ball, and impact the game defensively, while his presence on the court was more like that of a scaled-down number 2 or even number 1 scoring option. Let me explain. Since being drafted, everything's revolved around his jump shot. Between his size, touch, and sheer audacity, he made a name for himself as one of the game's most lethal perimeter scoring options. Naturally, that fit right into a Denver offense that was built around Jokic and Murray. Defenses prioritized not letting those two get to their spots, and the ultimate counter was a 6'10" sniper. The thing about Porter though is that he was always overqualified when relegated to the role of a spot-up shooter. For starters, he might have been even better on the move than he was from a standstill, so the Nuggets could mix things up by putting him in all sorts of screening action, knowing defenses would be forced to react to the threat of his shot. Then with the size and shooting ability, he was a really impressive athlete who could do serious damage in the paint, meaning that if his defender played the shot a little too aggressively, he could cut backdoor for easy points. Over the years, he added to his scoring punch with the development of a pretty strong in-between game, so it wasn't as simple as running him off the line, and the culmination of everything I've talked about turned him into a sort of secret weapon for Denver's championship caliber offense. Like I said, everything revolved around Jokic and Murray, but whenever they wanted, they could push a third Michael Porter Jr. button, and chances are he was ready to deliver. Well, that all changed over the summer when they sent Porter to a rebuilding Brooklyn squad. And typically when a high-level scorer gets traded to a spot where he's going to step into an increased role, that's when the potential all-star buzz starts to gain some hype. He's not your typical scorer though. Most guys who are capable of getting 20 efficiently in the league self-create a majority of their opportunities, whether that's out of pick and roll, in isolation, from the post, or even in transition. Mike's never been a great ball handler, so he's not the type to initiate. He wasn't ever the type of player to get to the rim from a standstill or really create his own shot consistently at all. And with that, he certainly wasn't someone who was actively creating offense for the guys around him. It didn't take long for head coach Jordi Fernandez to make it very clear that he didn't need Mike to be any of that though. Instead, he and the rest of the Nets coaching staff approached the addition of Porter Jr. through the lens of keeping literally everything in his game the exact same. What I mean by that is he's getting all of his touches in the same way, out of the same actions, and in the same spots on the court. It's just that now, instead of operating like a special weapon, he's the focal point. So the volume on all of these plays has been ramped up to the max, and it's created one of the league's most unique offensive profiles. With the way he's been playing, I'm going to try to get my hands on a rookie card, and in order to do so, I'm going to have to rip open some packs. Luckily for me, today's video is sponsored by none other than Arena Club. Arena Club is the future of card collecting, allowing you to rip packs, buy, sell, or trade cards all in one place. They're most known for being the original home of the slab pack, and you'll notice that they've got multiple different tiers for football, basketball, baseball, and Pokemon cards starting at just $25. Just like last time, we're going to be going for this gold basketball pack because that's just where I think there's the best value. And I really like the transparency because you see everything that's in the pack and just how likely you are to get each card. Of course, we're looking for one of these grails, and the three options are Cade, Ant, and Shea, who are all in the midst of career seasons. In my last video with Arena Club, I pulled this rookie Cade Cunningham autograph PSA 9, just an awesome card. And since then, I've also added a rookie Asar Thompson to my collection, a rookie Anthony Edwards, and of course, a personal favorite, rookie Draymond Green. All right, we are opening the gold basketball pack. We got this really cool animation to kind of hype us up a little bit for what we're gonna get, and we got Vince Carter, 2003 PSA 10, so it's in mint condition. One of my favorite parts about this website is that they're gonna give me an instant offer, so if I want to sell it back to them, $61 is the estimated value. I'm gonna add it to my collection though, because I think this is a pretty cool card. Now it's your turn to rip. Get 20% off your first slab pack or card by going to arenaclub.com/hoopvenue and using my code hoopvenue. If you decide to rip open a pack, let me know down in the comments what you got. Much like the Nuggets, a large chunk of Brooklyn's half-court offense starts in the hands of their big man. More times than not, that means it's Nick Claxton setting up action, and they're looking to get Mike on the move so that he's able to catch the ball with an advantage. Naturally, this means he receives lots, and I mean lots of handoffs. As things currently stand, he's attempting to score on about 4.5 handoffs a game, while no other player in the league is even above 3. After getting the ball in these spots, he's looking to attempt a 3 more than half the time, and it can't be overstated just how effective of a shot this is for him. Over the past 3 seasons, he's hit about 34.5% of his threes after handoffs. And while that might not sound like the most efficient shot in the world, it's important to keep in mind the context. Basically, all of these jumpers are taken on the move, oftentimes off balance. And that could mean he's rolling out to his left, his right, or even in the complete opposite direction of the hoop. Then because of his size and the elevation on his jumper, he's basically immune to contests, meaning that unless the defense completely sells out or his defender does a perfect job of staying attached to his hip, he can rise up on demand. So going back to what I said earlier, that jumper opens up everything. It takes serious attention to detail to keep him from taking 10 moving threes a game, and it's how he reacts to those coverages that makes him such a talented off-ball scorer. This play is set up so that Porter can set a back screen before curling into a handoff. But the Cavs are so worried about not letting him get the ball up top that they just forget to defend the paint. And this isn't a rare occurrence. Defenses routinely prioritize the handoff or get caught on the wrong side of his body, and he's got incredible instincts for slipping into easy points. Pretty much, if you're a defense that wants to defend both the cut and the three-point shot, you've got two options. Option 1 relies on his individual defender. If he can make himself skinny over the top of the screen or force Mike to catch the ball at an awkward angle, he won't be able to quickly rise up. Only that opens up the door for him to play downhill, and like I talked about earlier, his size, athleticism, and touch enable him to do serious damage in the paint. To be exact, he's made 83% of his shots at the rim this season. It takes great drop defense to keep him away from the basket, but as long as that first defender's stuck on his hip, he can be just as dangerous from mid-range. Which takes me into option number 2 for these defenses, sending the big man up in a more aggressive coverage to get the ball out of his hands early. While he's not the type to make super advanced reads, his decision making has really impressed me, and the Nets are consistently getting good shots off of his passes. What really stands out is that he basically never wastes a movement. If he catches the ball and doesn't have an immediate advantage to attack, he'll quickly give it up so that they can find something better, and that's the true key to making this system work. As a team, they don't really isolate or post up much at all. It's even rare to see them run a traditional pick and roll. Instead, it's all about movement, multiple actions, quick decisions on the fly. And it takes someone like Porter, who's never going to try to play outside of the scheme in order for it to function at the highest level. Now don't get me wrong, for the most part this system is born out of necessity. You can't really isolate or post up when you don't have one-on-one scorers. What the Nets do have though is passers at every position. Remember, they drafted a ton of point guards, so even if the offense isn't running through the big man, the goal is still the same. Start him away from the ball, look to get him free with the screen, and let him do what he does best. It's that simple, and because he's such a dynamic scorer at that size, most defenses haven't really figured out how to stop him. We're talking about a guy who over the past 3 seasons has made almost 41% of his threes off of screens. And just like after a handoff, he's got the tools to leverage that threat into shots for himself or the guys around him. So when we talk about an increased role for Porter, it's not about a heavy diet of pick and rolls, isolations, or post-ups, it's just more off-ball action. Then on the other possessions, where there isn't a designed play being run for him to get the ball, he's the ultimate plug-and-play option. I've talked about his shooting on the move, but what about his shooting from a standstill? He's made over 42% of his spot-up threes in the last 3 seasons. And remember, he's immune to contests. So no matter what, he's a threat to catch and shoot. Then of course, it sort of goes without saying, but overreact to the shot, and he's putting the ball on the deck for points in the paint. Speaking of which, you might have noticed this number in the top left of your screen that's been ticking up throughout the video. And if you notice the number, you probably also noticed that this has been counting Michael Porter Jr.'s dribbles. The number 49 is insignificant. I just wanted to make it known that in the upwards of 70 plays I've shown throughout this video, he's only dribbled the ball 49 times. Because what makes his game so unique, and really this experiment as a whole so fascinating, is that he's doing so much for the offense while the ball rarely touches hardwood. Here's a look at how every player in the league is currently scoring relative to how much they dribble. Naturally, there's a bit of a trend. Dribble more, score more. But a few players break that mold. Bigs like Jokic and Wemby, who finish a lot of plays, and off-ball savants like Lauri Markkanen, and now Michael Porter Jr., who's averaging about 26 points a game in less than 70 dribbles. Maybe the most important part, though, is how efficient he's been. He's getting to the line at a career-high rate. He's made 59% of his twos, 40% of his threes, all while showing serious growth as a playmaker. And as a result, he's almost single-handedly turned the Nets into a functional offensive team. With him on the court, they're scoring over 118 points every 100 possessions, which is about 2.5 points ahead of league average and good for the 66th percentile among all players. With him off the court, that number falls off a cliff to the point where we have to question whether or not this is even an NBA level team. So I might not be necessarily advocating for a Michael Porter Jr. All-Star campaign, but the case is definitely there. He's joined a rare class of players as an off-ball scorer who you can legitimately build a good offense around. What does that mean for him or the Nets' future? Only time will tell. But don't take for granted that we're witnessing a 6'10" wing who's capable of scoring 30 without dribbling the ball.